back to the Reg and Tech series. My name is Jenny Lewis and I am the co-founder of Alira Solutions. Today I'm joined with someone who I think will be quite a refreshing voice on here because he's not in the compliance space or the regulatory space, but he is a founder and a builder, which I think will just be, great to have a bit of that on here. So welcome, Justin.
Hi there.
He is the co-founder of Megaslice, which is a tech consultancy at its core, I guess. But I'll pass over to Justin now so that you can explain a little bit more about yourself and what Megaslice actually does.
Yeah, so I think on paper you could say we're a tech consultancy. I think we're more like a founding partner. That's a better way to think of us. So if you're a founder, especially if you're a non-tech founder, or if you have expertise in a non-tech area, and you think there's an opportunity in technology in your sector, and you're not sure where to start, and you want the right ally who acts and thinks more like a co-founder than an agency, that's where we come in, and that's what we do. So that's often about not just what to do, but what not to do.
Mhm.
And I think, Jenny, you'll know from work we've done together and experiences we've had together that I'm often telling people not to do things and not to spend money and not to plow ahead and not to do a bunch of crazy things before doing some validation. So we're very careful that actually we behave like a genuine co-founder.
Mhm.
Don't do anything that we won't say or do anything that we wouldn't say if we were a co-founder of the business. And my own background is that I guess I've been writing software for as long as I can remember. That's how I started. My uncle taught me when I was really young, and I fell in love with it because it's like modern magic. You do this,
Mhm.
well, at that time you do this thing called coding, and suddenly things light up and things appear on the screen, sounds play, whatever. And as a kid, you're like, wow, okay, what's that? And that turned into gaming and things like that, learning how to write games. That was the cool stuff. But yeah, so for me, that's also modern magic, and always wanting to bring some of that magic into the rest of life and the world. And I guess my frustration, which led to Megaslice, is why isn't it everywhere? How come we're not
Mhm.
seeing more of this magic in different industries? And you'll know from being in RegTech that not only is the magic not everywhere, but sometimes it's the wrong magic. It's dark magic. It's bad stuff. And I think
Yes.
part of Megaslice's mission is to work with founders to make sure that doesn't happen to them.
Mhm. Yeah. Interesting. Well, I just wanted to pick up on a point that you'd said is that you like to say sort of the uncomfortable truths and you will tell people to do things and to not do things a lot of the time, as you said. So you have this theory about, as I said, saying the uncomfortable truths. So is that at any time where that has gone wrong, or do you maybe have a really great example of when you've told someone to not do something and it's actually turned out to be it seemed like not the right call, but it turned out to be completely the right call?
Oh, I mean, yeah, God, all the time, all the time. I'll frame it a little bit. So, one of the things you might have heard me say elsewhere is, you say the things that make the wrong people run away. Um, this is especially true in the context of hiring, incidentally. So, our job specs, they're not written to attract the right people. They are written to attract the right people. They're also written so that if you're the wrong person, you'll say, there's no way I want to work here. And it all comes from a bit of a hell yes or no philosophy. If something isn't a hell yes, it's default no. And one of the jokes we have internally is that no means no, maybe means no, yes means no, and hell yes means yes. And that's
Okay.
how we operate. And when it comes to doing something as big as building a startup or a tech business or working with a founder or whatever, if I don't walk away thinking this is going to be absolutely astronomically good or go really, really, really well, or it's all going to work out really, really well. I will say that why I don't think that's the case. And when it comes to customers, I will urge them to resolve those things before they go ahead. So talking about, when I've done that before and how it can sometimes quote unquote go wrong, that if you're a founder and you've got a good idea and you really, really, really believe in your idea quite deeply, it's quite hard to get people to move away from that.
Mm-hmm.
It's really difficult because the thing is, Jenny, is that the idea is not just this thing on the outside anymore. It's become part of you as a founder. You identify with that idea in a very deep way. So when I turn up and say, do you know what? I'm not sure. Have you really validated this? Are you sure people are going to buy this? Don't build it yet until you've gone out there and made sure people will buy all those kind of messages. There is a level at which, if you're a founder, you might walk away, and founders often do walk away thinking, you've attacked me. You said something about me. You're basically saying that my idea is no good. And that's not necessarily the case. It's not that the idea is bad. It's that you have to, at the end of the day, it's not about what I think of the idea and what you think of the idea. We might think it's brilliant. But if you don't have
Mm-hmm.
customers who think the idea is brilliant enough for them to give you their money, it doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's not a business. Um, and that, and if you don't honor that, you're in for a hiding and in
Yeah.
for a massive battle. So I've been on that journey before where I've said those things and I've had customers walk away and say, you don't understand. And then they come back later. A lot of the time they'll come back later and say, do you know what? I went on this journey and the things you said were going to happen have happened. And I can promise you, Jenny, I don't like bask in glee or anything like that. I don't find it pleasurable at all for someone to have gone through this tough journey and then have to come back and say, I spent all this time and money and whatever. Now, what do I do? I don't like that. But it does happen. It does
Mm-hmm.
happen.
Well, I can definitely see how, even from maybe some of your LinkedIn posts as a founder, it can feel a bit like threatening, almost being like, you have to do this before you put this idea out into the world. And that can feel almost like a bit of an attack. But it is true that sometimes you just need to kind of take a step back and have a look at how things will actually work and where your market is. So yeah, leading on from that, would you say that there's like a specific time when you realized, was it one of your own projects or maybe someone else's project where you realized that, like, where did this come from? This vision that it shouldn't just be treated as your idea and your software, but the actual, the market around it and everything else.
Um, it mainly came from when I was mostly doing engineering. It mainly came from doing a lot of good work and it doesn't make it.
Okay.
A lot of good work where, excuse me, a lot of good work where everybody internally believed in it and was really hyped up, and all the signals seemed right. So there were customers or quote unquote customers or people saying this is great and we'll definitely buy it and blah, 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 blah. Doing loads of hard work and lots of deep thinking and producing some good stuff. And then commercial failure or
Mm.
agony, I should say, commercial agony. And I just thought, why does this keep happening? And I kind of, where I got to is I realized I had to make a decision if I'm going to be a consultant and I'm going to put some of my messages out there. I had to make a decision between saying the hard thing early and risking people not liking it and feeling threatened. But it's the truth. And
Mhm.
it's the truth that if you can just grab onto it, it will massively help you, even if it's
Mhm.
difficult. Or being Mr. Nice Guy and just watching people float into failure and then say, oh, well, let's just deal with it then and act like I didn't know it was going to happen. I just can't do the latter.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
I
for me,
guess
it's
that's
better.
always the risk that you have to take of, putting the difficult information out there is some people might not like it, but I guess that's what makes you authentically yourself. And also for your business, it wouldn't really work as well, I guess, if you were saying, oh, okay, well, you do that and yeah.
Yeah, I think
Um,
it's, it comes back to what you were saying earlier, the thing that makes the wrong people run away. I think there is a level at which if I'm saying something to you and it's difficult for you to hear, but it's absolutely the truth, and I'm saying it with love. I'm saying it because I genuinely want you to succeed, and that's why I'm warning you now. Please don't do this, or please do that. If that's a message you don't want to hear right now, or you can't accept, we're gonna clash. We're
mhm,
gonna clash because I will forever in here be thinking, I've got a problem with this based on all my experience, and you'll be forever thinking, well, this person just doesn't believe. And if that's where we are in that moment in our lives or in the relationship, maybe it's better for us to not work together until someone has a change of heart.
mhm,
So that's kind of coming back to, it's better for the wrong relationship to just not happen at all than to go into it because I'm trying to say what you want to hear. I just can't do that.
mhm. Yeah. So you have, by this point, I assume you've helped many startups, and so I assume that a pattern sort of emerges. So is there maybe some things that are different with every company that you help, and maybe some things that stay the same? Like what is the pattern that you see as being a founder or advisor to these startups?
Well, certainly for the people that I work with, or the stage of the business that we target, um, there's a massive amount of similarity, a massive amount of similarity. And I would say that the main themes are, number one, founders needing to engage with services, especially technical services, and not really knowing what they're buying, not really knowing what they're engaging with. And that's a huge handicap, a massive handicap. It's kind of like, imagine I said to you, okay, go and hire an electrician. You're doing a brand new house and you need an electrician. And it's a bit of an unusual house. It's going to be a super smart home and there's going to be something unique about it. So you can't just get any run-of-the-mill electrician. You've got to get a real, like, a real craftsperson. Okay, go find them. You're going to be like, how the hell do I know? How the hell do I know that I've got a good person? And you can look at every metric you want, but ultimately it's going to come down to reputation. And it's going to come down to your own subjective assessment. If you have the person in front of you and you're like, I just can't get along with this electrician. I can't see us working together. You're going to use those kinds of metrics. What you're not going to do is say, I'm going to understand how electrical work works, and then I'm going to make an assessment on that basis, a rational, objective assessment. You can't. The only other thing you can do is find someone you trust, absolutely trust, to have your interests in mind and to put in the work that it takes to succeed, who also happens to be an expert at electricals, and
Mhm,
say, can you come into my world, understand what it is that I have to do, and then help me with this? So that's one pattern, is not knowing who to buy from and who to trust to help them make the decision. Yeah.
mhm,
Um, so that's pattern number one. Um, Pattern number two, we've covered it already, but it's just this belief that if you build the idea, people will definitely buy it. That's like the most insidious belief. And I don't really blame founders for thinking that, because if you look out in the market and look in the blogosphere and whatever, and all the literature, people are literally saying you need to build your MVP, build an MVP, build an MVP, get it out there, test the market, test the market. And there are very few people saying, no, don't build anything, sell something first. And like Jenny, if I walk up to a random founder tomorrow and say, sell this before you've built anything, you can predict what the first question is that they're going to come back with. How do you do that? How do you sell something that doesn't exist? That's not possible, is it? But it is. And there's a real lack of information out there about how to do it. So that's pattern number two. Pattern number three is just honestly just having way less money than they need to do anything, and having to get to that first investment or that first injection of capital somehow, and misunderstanding what that takes. So again, rather like product, I need to have a product before I can sell. People think I need to go to all these angel investment events, and I need to go to VCs, and I need to have a beautiful deck with 30 pages in it, and I need to have a 5-year financial model and blah, 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 blah. That stuff is true a little later on, but right at the beginning when you've got nothing, actually that is not the best approach. The best approach is to find some people who care about you and are willing to give you 5 grand, 10 grand, whatever, and cobble a few bits together and then use that to do the first meaningful piece of work, which is to get customers. But nobody's saying that. So if I go out to Jenny, if you Google how to get investment, what are you going to see? Pretty much every other message except that.
Yeah.
So those are
definitely.
the kind of 3 patterns that I see with across businesses.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. I just want to go back to something you said in your first point, which will actually, it ties in quite nicely to our audience and the regtech market, I guess. So a lot of people listening to this are probably buying software for businesses. Now they're not maybe technical people, and everyone's getting a sold a dream these days. So would you say there are any characteristics or things to look out for, or things people should be asking before they actually buy into some sort of software, or maybe a SaaS platform, or other than your amazing electrician friend, but what should these people be asking internally about before they buy into any of this?
Yeah, okay. So putting the amazing friend who's going to help you aside, look, the number one thing that you need to look for in a supplier is that they are willing to come into your world and understand your situation deeply, not just try and flog something to you.
Mm-hmm.
And the best suppliers will come in, try to analyze what's going on, and they might say, you don't actually need us, or you think you needed this from us, but you need this right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good sign that you're about to work with someone who is actually going to help you. When they help you not just understand their product, more that they help you understand what your options are to solve your problem and where they fit in those options. If you're not having that kind of a conversation, they're just trying to flog you what they've got. Yeah. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing is predictable costs. So they make it very clear what things are actually going to cost you overall, including any time you might have to spend with your staff at your cost to make this thing work, and what the risks are. They're pretty upfront about it. If they turn up saying it's the land of milk and honey and it's going to be super easy and you just click one button and it's in, and whatever, like, you will know from your own experience trying to integrate these things, it's never that simple. Never that simple. And people who are not
Plug and
upfront
play
with
does
you,
not exist.
No, but I think the problem is that suppliers will often feel afraid to say, okay, we need to go through all the costs and all the risks here because they think, oh, I'm going to lose the sale. That's a buyer problem, really. Buyers have to be a little bit smarter and say, if the suppliers aren't going through the costs and risks, or if I don't make it easy for them to talk about the costs and risks without making them feel like they're about to lose the sale, I'm not going to get the truth. And the people who are not even willing, even when you make it safe for them, who are not willing to engage in that conversation, you don't want to work with them.
Mhm.
The third thing is, and this is difficult to achieve, but it's important, is align downsides. So if something goes wrong, does all the risk sit with you as the buyer? If the answer is yes, that's a bad relationship. If some of it sits with the supplier, like, okay, if things go wrong, we will come in at our own cost and we will make it work by hook or by crook. And we'll sit with you and we'll support you, and the meter won't like keep ticking or whatever, then you're in a good place. Or if you use it and it genuinely doesn't help, do you know what? We'll have a break clause, we'll just cancel the contract. You don't have to pay anymore. Or even if they give you a refund, something like that, and a line downside, that will give you confidence as a buyer that actually the person you're working with is upstanding and has some integrity and likely does what they say. Aside from that, again, unless you have someone to help you, it's going to be impossible for you to make a technical evaluation. That's why they're there. They are meant to be the experts. What you're trying to assess is, are they an honest expert?
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a problem that we've seen a lot in the fintech and regtech space doing what we do at Alira Solutions is that you know, people can't often tell the difference between who is really truly a good vendor and who is selling you the dream. So yeah, I think that's some great advice for anyone who's in the market right now trying to look for tech. So you talk a lot about, or I've seen on a few articles and podcasts that you've done, that you talk about the lemon market problem, the idea that buyers can't evaluate the quality before they buy. I feel like that kind of ties in nicely to what we've just been talking about. So how do people, maybe non-technical buyers, protect themselves from that? Or what do you mean when you talk about the lemon market problem, I guess?
Yeah, so if I'll just do a quick recap on what that is. I urge people to read the actual paper because it's brilliant. There's a reason it won a Nobel Prize. Um,
Mhm.
so a lemon market it's an analogy. So if you go to buy a used car, um, the crap ones are called lemons. Right? That's the colloquialism for them. And if you're a buyer and you're going to go and buy a used car, if you don't know how to evaluate a used car, you've got very little real information to go on. So what you're going to do, you're very likely going to go on price. You're going to say, right, if it's £1,000, it's probably rubbish. If it's £3,000 or £4,000, it's mid-tier. If it's a 20 grand car, it must be really good. Yeah. But actually, you don't really know. It's not like you can lift up the hood, or even if you look at the service record, you might be like, well, I guess it looks okay. I don't really know. Unless you bring a mechanic friend with you, you don't know. And the trouble with that is that the sellers, especially unscrupulous sellers, know that. They know that. And because they know that, they can price the lemons at a price that they shouldn't be. So a car that's £1,000, you might come along. If they identify that you're a clueless buyer, they might sell it to you for £3,000, which is priced at, the price that should be a non-lemon, perhaps, like some mid-tier car that's reliable enough. Um, and that has a really pernicious effect because then the people who are selling good stuff can't price it correctly. They either have to overprice, which adds to the problem, or they're driven out of the market, completely driven out of the market. And then you end up with only the lemons. And that's the conclusion of the paper, is that markets where buyers don't know what they're buying and don't have enough independent information to make an assessment, or don't have enough aligned expertise to help them make the assessment, those markets will turn into lemon markets. And I feel very strongly that the software market is kind of turning into a lemon market in some respects. If you look at the trades, for example, like plumbing, electricians, AV, whatever, builders, we've got things like checker trade now. And in some other industries, you've got Trustpilot and you've got all that stuff. That doesn't exist for software. Like, if you went and wanted to work with a developer, unless you work with an individual from like a freelancing platform, if you want to work with a firm, there's nowhere you can really go to say, well, who's got the information on whether they're any good? So you're left making your own assessment. And the problem is that the sellers know that. They know that you have to make an independent assessment. And it's not very long into the conversation where they work out that you don't know how to assess them. And they don't necessarily do this maliciously, Jenny. Like, they are just doing what they're doing. They're just running their business. But because the buyers can't challenge them, they don't even maybe realize that what they're doing is not in the buyer's interests. They just think, well, this is how the market works. You do things this way, you charge time and materials, these are the prices. Oh yeah, software projects, they go wrong all the time, don't they? Well, it's just normal. And I'm like, no, no, it isn't. Sorry, I've got to be careful not to swear. No, it isn't. Yeah, absolutely is not. That is a belief. But that belief exists. When people say that's just the way it is in software, what they're saying is we're a lemon market now. And that's my objection. And so for buyers, I mean, honestly, it's so difficult to make those assessments. Everything you just asked me about Regtech and how to make a good purchase there applies to software as well, to commissioning software. But nothing will beat having someone who's an expert who's on your side. Nothing. And it's not difficult for us to assess whether someone's on our side or not. That's the best thing you can do. And they don't even have to be a world's leading expert. They just have to know enough. They have to know more than you when they walk into the room and look at the seller. And they have to be able to walk away and say, I don't know, Jenny, these people give me the heebie-jeebies. That's enough. That's enough for you to say, all right, let's just step away from it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that's great like feedback to, I guess, all the markets at the moment. I feel like everywhere's becoming so saturated at the moment that it's kind of impossible to stay away from the lemon market. But on that note, something that's everywhere at the moment, AI, we all know and love. So you have said before that the AI market is overhyped, and when the bubble bursts, everyone will eventually pivot back to what they know. Now, is that still what you're seeing? Do you still stand with that point? And
yeah, I think so. I just want to be very clear what that means. So when I say something is overhyped, that doesn't mean it's not valuable. It just means that the buzz around it exceeds its current value and its current capability, I should say. So if you go on LinkedIn, I mean, you've probably seen this, Jenny, but it's just saturated with AI talk, utterly saturated. Anyone you're not following, if you just see random stuff that it puts in your feed, it's all AI, 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 AI. That's hype. That's overhype. People are not talking about where it genuinely fits in and can genuinely help. They're just talking about it because everyone feels they need to be relevant. That's overhype. And when I say companies will revert, what I mean is um it's like when SaaS first became a really big thing. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, we all have to do SaaS everything. Let's go crazy doing SaaS." And the same thing happened with big data and a whole bunch of things even before then that nobody will remember. Um, and it's not that SaaS isn't valuable or isn't valid. It's just that it cools off and everyone goes, "Oh, do you know what? I did this SaaS thing and it didn't work out for me and I wasted a lot of time and money. So I'm just going to revert back to my comfort zone. I'm going to go back
Yeah.
to what I'm confident in." And the tragedy with that is I can totally understand why people do that, but it means that this thing that could have been valuable in a certain way to them, because it was so overhyped and because they now got burnt trying to do something with it, they swing all the way back, probably further back than they were, and say, "Oh, screw this, I'm just going to do what I know and what I can trust." And then they might stagnate again and not actually
Yeah.
benefit from this stuff. So when I say AI is overhyped and companies are going to go back to doing, I don't mean AI is not valuable and companies should stick to what they're doing. I just mean there's so much hype and buzz around it. Everyone's going to go, "Oh my God, let's do this AI stuff. Oh my God, it didn't work. Let's go over here again." And the truth is here, as always. The truth is somewhere in the
Mhm.
middle, but nobody knows how to find that balance because it's all so new.
Mhm. So where do you feel AI is like truly delivering like real value? So it's not the hype, not the pivoting back, but where do you think it can actually you can implement it into your work, into your business, and where it will actually deliver real value?
Um, I think this is going to be a very abstract comment, but the best place to use AI is filling gaps that you just couldn't fill before, doing things that you literally could not do before. So if before, I'm going to take a really dull example. If your job was like, in order to do a really diligent delivery to my client, I have to review 100 docs, and I can't for the price that the customer can afford. So what I'm going to do is going to take a sample of 10 docs and see how we go. And then on that basis, the client is happy and I've managed to deliver some work. Well, there's a gap of 90 docs. That's where you can step in and say, "Oh, do you know what? I could use AI to help me." Now, what people will often do is say, "Oh, I'll get AI to review all 100." And that's a mistake. You still want to do the thing that satisfies you that the right thing is happening, but now you've got an additional augmented thing helping you.
Mhm.
I can still do my random sample, but now that I've got AI, the other 90 docs can be have a cursory check as well. It's kind of like reading a contract, Jenny. So if someone sends me a contract, I don't just send it to AI and go, "Oh, tell me what this means." I'll still try to read it because it's important. I'm about to
Yeah.
sign it. But what I will also do is send it to AI and say, "Have I missed anything? Do you think I've missed anything? Do you think there's something I haven't thought of?" And that's augmenting me, and that makes me more able. So I think that's one thing is that filling in gaps and doing things that you literally couldn't do before. I think the other place where a little bit more controversial is helping you think things that you couldn't think before. So if you have an idea, let's say you have an idea right now, how would you flesh out that idea? You could sit down by yourself and do it. You can talk to your friends, you can talk to colleagues, you can talk to experts, but they've got limited time. And when you're sitting by yourself, you haven't got anyone challenging you, pushing back, or encouraging you, or whatever. If you wake up at 2 in the morning and you think, "Oh, I really need to now's my moment to think about this," you couldn't really do it. I think that's another place where AI is coming very useful, especially for me. Um, It's just having something always there
Mhm.
to pursue ideas, flesh them out, as long as you don't delegate the thinking to the AI.
Yeah.
The AI is like a mirror. So you're doing the thinking and you're putting it into Claude or ChatGPT or whatever, and it's reflecting it back to you, and you have to have the judgment to say, no, 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 you've got that wrong. That's not what I meant. That's not what I was thinking.
Mhm.
It's more like this. It's more like that. That's another place that I think it could have a massive impact and isn't quite to the degree it could be. In some very niche areas, yeah, but in generally speaking, if I went and surveyed 100 people and said, okay, sure, you're using it for checking, you're using it for drafting, you're using it for generating material. Are you using it to
Mhm.
think better? The answer will be very few people are doing that.
Mhm.
And that's where I think it has the most potential.
Well, yeah, I think from what we've seen, I think, ChatGPT came out and everyone was crazy and they were just asking all the questions, and then there were all the hallucinations. And I think now we've kind of got to a place where people are stepping back and challenging it and realizing that the most important part of using LLMs, for example, is the human judgment aspect of it.
Yeah,
And being able to say, especially if you're a subject matter expert, you can look at what the output and say, well, actually, no, that's wrong. And I think, um, with all the AI messes that we've seen recently, that's probably the gap where people aren't challenging it enough,
yeah.
and they're forgetting about the human judgment aspect. So, yeah,
I think,
completely agree with you on that one.
what's happening there is that people are looking at AI and the speed at which it does certain things.
Hmm.
And people become enamored with the speed.
Hmm.
But the problem is the speed comes with the hallucination. I think it's
Hmm.
a mistake to get focused on speed. What you want to think of is more like leverage. I don't know if that's the right word, or amplification.
Yeah.
It's like if I wanted to think about some complicated stuff, I still need to do the thinking. Let's not look at it as, oh, I can do that thinking in half the time or a quarter of the time. Let's imagine it's going to take the same time. Yeah. But the thoughts are now bigger and more, I can have more complex thoughts and I can cover a bit more ground. And I can do things that previously I would have thought this project is too big. I can't handle this by myself. But I still have to be the person who validates and verifies and thinks and checks and all of that stuff. So it's less about speed and it's more about making me a more capable person. That one individual can do more, not one individual is quicker and gives up something. That's, I
Hmm.
think, is a mistake. And I think that's where it's people are not super clear on how to use AI. It's one of those things that you have to watch someone who's really good. You got to watch them using it, and then you're like, I really should be doing that as well.
Hmm. Yeah. So I have heard you say on another podcast that you think one of the main sort of qualities in a founder isn't just the confidence, but it's arrogance.
Hmm.
Now, can you maybe explain a little bit more about that? And also, do you think maybe that there's a different kind of arrogance to AI founders, especially with the overhype? Does that kind of tie into an AI founder's arrogance, I guess?
Yeah, it's a very, very fine line.
Hmm.
Um, the reason I make the confidence arrogance distinction is that, and this is unique to early stage founders, just to be clear. Later stage founders, like arrogance is actually not very helpful. It can be completely toxic. Um, but in early stage, everything is against you. Everything is against you. And the probability of you succeeding is so astonishingly low that confidence is not enough. It's not enough. You have to have a certain level of self-belief. And you have to, and not necessarily in your idea, but in your ability to navigate choppy waters. And if you don't have that, if you just have, run of the mill confidence, you will make a rational decision not to pursue your startup vision. It's completely rational. If someone says, I don't want to build a startup because it seems incredibly risky and I'm more likely to fail than succeed, that's a completely rational statement. So a confident person can say that and quite objectively be correct. But that means they're not going to succeed building a startup because they may not even start or they may not have the staying power. That's where a little dose of arrogance is useful. And if I were to characterize it, it's kind of like everyone's telling you you're wrong, everyone's telling you it's not going to work, or everything's very difficult and you're struggling to figure out what you should even do. And sometimes you just got to wake up in the morning and say, I don't give a what everyone else thinks. I'm doing this. And that's the level I'm talking about. Nothing more than that.
Yeah.
You need that. That's the fire in the belly that makes you keep going. And you read so many stories of people who succeeded. And when you interview them, they're like, yeah, well, guess what? There was a point where I thought this was going to be a complete and utter disaster. And I just gritted my teeth and said, I don't care, I'm doing it. And there's no evidence or data or anything that you can point to say that's why. You can explain it after the fact. But founders who are being honest will say, do you know what it was? I just believed in myself and hoped I was right.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's the arrogance that I'm talking about. And in AI founders, to address AI founders, like anything else, that is a different form of arrogance, I would say, because they don't have a lot of people against them. In fact, it's the opposite. Everyone is telling them how great they are. Oh my God, you're in AI. Wow, you're going to make a load of money. And that's the wrong kind of arrogance. That's foolishness. Um, it doesn't matter what people. I think the lesson both ways is if everyone says it's a bad idea versus everyone says it's a good idea, both those data points are completely useless. The only thing that matters is, have I built something that somebody's willing to pay me for? Can I prove that? If you can't do that, it doesn't matter what everyone else thinks. It's complete irrelevance. It doesn't matter what the market is or the hype. And I think the AI founders have become very, very arrogant because they think, yeah, I'm riding this wave. I can't lose. And then they will.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's definitely a great like keep going for me, just to have a little bit of confidence, have a little bit of arrogance, and get up in the morning and say, I don't care if it's embarrassing, I don't care what other people are going to think. And I'm sure that's some advice that every other founder out there would love to hear right now. So we, on this Reg and Tech series, we like to finish every episode with the same question. Now, I'm curious to see how your answer will differ to this question, as you're not in financial services, as many of our other guests have been. And the question is, what do you think would be the first AI enforcement action? So whether you have an answer to that or not, or just anything that comes to the top of your head, I'd love to hear what your opinion
In which
is.
specific space? In financial services?
Well, wherever you think, in the tech space, in the financial services space. I know you're
Okay.
not too much into the financial services area, so
Yeah. So I'll answer it generally then. I think it's going to be self-driving vehicles. I think
okay.
what's going to happen is, yeah, there's going to be like a death or a serious accident or something. And everyone is going to be trying to work out who's culpable. Is it the
Hmm.
owner of the car? Is it the people who produce the physical car? Is it the people who produce the software overall? Is it going to be the people who produce the AI model? Let's just say, for argument's sake, it's the people who produce the particular AI model, the vision model. Who? Is it the chief exec? Is it the software engineers? Who is it? Is it the chief data scientist? Who's actually culpable? Because if you drive a car, it's much more clear cut if a
Mhm.
human's driving a car, because a human has agency. But now we're talking about AI having agency and making independent decisions. But it's independent decisions based on training. And I think that's where it's going to get really messy. Someone, unfortunately, I think losing money isn't going to be enough. It's when someone gets seriously hurt, when blood is spilt, so to speak, that actually there's going to be a really serious enforcement action. And people are going to say, right, if we don't put some rules down and actually enforce them, this is going to keep happening. Kind of like, the first plane crash, the first jumbo jet crash. That's when everyone said, hang on a minute, we need to actually figure out what the rules and the process and whatever are going to be. So I think it's going to be transportation.
I love that answer. Yeah, it's definitely like really different than anything else that we've had on these episodes. But yeah, brilliant. And um yeah, definitely one of my favorite conversations we've had on here. And I think that's a good place to finish. So thank you very much, Justin, for coming on. It's been a really interesting conversation, and I think a lot of people out there will find it very useful as well. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, bye.
Bye.